whichever project you're interested in investing in, it's important that you understand the data and you understand if a project's healthy. Now, as I said in many of my past videos, there's only really two things that I look at. The first is whether it's got a maximum supply of 21 million, and the second is to make sure it has an open ledger. The open ledger is what's going to give you all the data. So in this session, we're just going to look at the Decred Block Explorer and see what data is available so that you can make up your own mind if it is what it says it is.
I don't know a lot about the Decred.
Kidding about printing.
Flooding the system with money.
Yes, exactly.
And there's no end to your ability to do that.
We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the bank.
I wish I was more educated on Decred. Decred. He is bullish on Decred.
I suppose the first thing we need to look at is, why is the open ledger so important? Now, if you think about this in real terms, if a bank offered you an open ledger so you could log in and you could see every single transaction on the network and see how much money it was in the network, you might feel slightly different about the system as a whole. In actual fact, that's what the Explorer does. It just tells you everything that's going on. It tells you how much money's in the system and who's transacting with who, and there's so much detail there. So let's have a look. So this is the Decred website. I wouldn't get too caught up in how wonderful it looks, because in this space, pretty much all these currencies have these lovely looking websites. The only thing you really need to look at is this Block Explorer and see what information they've got and see how healthy the blockchain is. So we have this menu item. Click on the menu item and then you can go down to this Get Started button. And then you want this Block Explorer, and this is where all this information is held. And Decred spent a lot of money and a lot of time putting this together to make it one of the most comprehensive Block Explorers I've ever seen. So once you click on that button, you have all this information. Now, a lot of it is very common to what you'd see in other Block Explorers. So if you were to look at the Bitcoin Block Explorer, you'd see this similar information. If you were to look at the Ethereum Block Explorer, you'd see similar information. And it's a treasure trove to see if the network is healthy and see what's actually going on. So let's have a look. The first thing, we have this search bar. The search bar is really important. If you want to see if a transaction that you are in the middle of is processing, you can just put your code in here or your hash code in here and press enter, and it will show you exactly how many confirmations it's got, and it will show you exactly how it works. After that, you have the main blockchain itself. So the latest mainnet blocks, this is how all the blocks are linked together. And where it says block height or height, these are all of the blocks in order. So as you can currently see, we have a block height of 464,589 blocks. And all of these are in order. So as a block is built, it gets put into that, it gets given a number and a date, and it gets time-stamped. In order for a block to be built, it has to go through many different processes first, but the most important thing is that you can see every single block and that the blocks are being generated in an average time. Now, for Decred, the average time is roughly 3 minutes. For Bitcoin, it's 10 minutes, and other blockchains have different protocols. So what you want to see is that all of the blocks are in order and that the age is roughly within that. You will see that some of them are more than that. Some might be up to 10 minutes or 5 minutes, but on average, you should be getting a block roughly every 3 minutes for Decred. The actual size, or the maximum size for a block, is going to, in Decred, it's something like 400 kilobytes, whereas in Bitcoin, it's 1 meg, which is 1,000 kilobytes. So it gives you an idea of what's happening, but remember, the Decred block is generated roughly every 3 minutes, whereas the Bitcoin block is generated every 10 minutes. So that's kind of how the difference works there. Within Decred, you notice that you have all the transactions that have gone into the block. You'll notice that you have the votes that have put the block together. So with Decred, we have two processes. We have mining and we have voting. And for every block, it has to include at least 3 votes, but up to 5 votes. During the block process, you'll see that a number of tickets get bought. So in this block here, there's 2 tickets that got bought. This block down here, 15 tickets got bought. And at any one time, I think there's something like 41,000 tickets that can be bought at any one time. The revokes basically tell you if a block had any questionable actions against it. So the votes a revoked vote would go in here. As you can see, we're in a pretty good space there. And then this decred statement here tells you how many decred were actually put into that block. So you've got 935 decred in this block. And then you can dig even deeper. So this is the main blockchain, but if you want to dig even deeper, you can say, right, let's see what went into this block. Let's actually see what's going on. So let's do one with all these tickets. So if we click on this one, we can go in and we can see the block hash. We can see the total spend. So this one had 3,184 decred that went into it, an approximate value of 45,000 US dollars. We can see the size is quite small. Now this might worry a lot of you, but it just means that there is space in the block. There's lots of space for it to grow, and we're not overcapitalized on that 400 kilobytes, which is actually really good. It also tells you another story about adoption. So it also tells you that actual fact there isn't that many transactions. Now I think this block had something like 12 transactions in total. So one of the biggest problems Decred does have is this idea of adoption and getting more people into the door. We are only 4 years old, so we would expect this to come, but it's going to come slowly. We don't have the 2,000 transactions that you might see on Bitcoin. So just be very aware of that. The next thing that you'll see is this timestamp. So every block gets timestamped and it gets locked in at a certain time. So this one was locked in July 6th, 2020 at this particular time, 5:35 in the morning. As you scroll down, you'll notice that there was a block reward, and that was 10 Decred 35, and it had a certain size to it. And then you'll scroll down even further and you'll see all the individual transactions. So this is your voting transactions. So these are the tickets that voted. This is how much it cost to buy the ticket, and this is the size of the ticket. You've got tickets that were bought. So these are the voting tickets, but these are the actual tickets that were bought during this block, and they were placed inside of this block. Once again, you can see how much the ticket cost. You can see how much fee it is. So if you ever wanted to check a particular fee, you could check that there, and then you could see the size of that transaction as well. And you can actually make a calculation based on what the size is and based on the fee to see if it's a good transaction. So I'm not sure if this is still the case, but it used to be something like 1 Satoshi per 1 byte or something like that. So in this particular transaction, you can see that is almost true. As we scroll down, then we're going to see more transactions, and these are people transacting with other people here. So if we click on the ID, we can see that there was a total of 180 Decred transacted for a fee of a fraction of a penny. So if we click on here, we can actually see what happened with the transaction and how it kind of got processed between the two addresses. So as you can appreciate there's a wealth of information, and that's what you really want to be looking at to see if a block is healthy or not, to see how much information it has. Now, that's just one part of it. So that's the actual block. That's the actual transmitted blocks. So actually what's happened in the past. We also get to see information about what's happening now. Now, down in the mempool, these are all the transactions that are waiting to be processed. So as you can see, we've got 6,320 Decred waiting to be processed. I'm not sure how many transactions that is, but you can kind of, it's not a huge amount, which is quite nice. In Bitcoin blockchain, one of their biggest things and one of the biggest arguments that you'll see is with this 1 meg block size, the mempools are really, really long. And in order to get your transaction completed, you're having to pay a higher fee. And that was one of the concerns with the Bitcoin network is you don't really want a mempool to be too big. If it's taking more than 20 minutes to complete a transaction and get confirmations and get it into one of these blocks, there's certain issues there that can start to occur. And I think at one point, especially with the Bitcoin blockchain, the BTC blockchain, I think we had like almost a 30-day mempool there at one point, which was obviously, lots and lots of issues. So you don't want that. And that's where the block size debate coming in. And if you're new to this space, there's something you should definitely look at is this block size debate and see which side of it you're on. It's a very tough one actually. But we'll leave that at that. So this is the mempool. These are all the transactions waiting to be processed. And even as we're waiting, you can see that things are being processed. You can see that this is all live data. So these are getting processed. More transactions are being added. Transactions are being taken off. If you wanted to see everything that was in the transaction, everything that was in the mempool, you could just click on this more transactions and you could go straight into it and see exactly what's waiting to be transacted with. So over on this right hand side we have the voting area, and we have loads of different information here. So currently the price of a ticket, so if you wanted to earn money through Decred and buy tickets and voting and secure the blockchain, you could buy a ticket. So the current ticket price is 152, almost 153 Decred. The next ticket is going to be roughly 153 Decred, and you'll notice that they do change. The price does fluctuate, so every time your ticket votes you'll get back your Decred, and then you have to buy another ticket and go through the process again and do more voting. And this is how you can earn money. So as you can see, current pool size is 41,000. This is what I was saying earlier, is there is a maximum ticket supply, so you can only have 41,000 and something ticket supply. So that, that's an interesting number as well. So there's plenty of tickets to be bought there. They're currently working on a process for ticket splitting as well, so you don't have to buy a whole ticket. And the current reward for every ticket is 0.88. So every time your ticket votes, you're going to get 0.88 for that particular vote. Don't quote me on that actually. I wonder if that's split between 5. I'll have to do a bit more research on that. I'm not sure if that's what each ticket gets or if that's what one ticket out of the 5 gets. I'll have to do some more research on that. So the current staked Decred inside of the ticket pool is 5 million, almost 6 million. Now, that's really interesting because if you look at the total supply, there's only a total supply of 11,700,000. So as you can see, half of the supply actually goes into tickets. They also use the tickets to do a bit of security as well, which is interesting. On the next bit then we have the mining, so we can see what the current difficulty is. We can see what the hash rate is. Then finally we're on to this distribution. So we look at what's in the Treasury. The Treasury is what's used to give money to people that contribute to the project. So currently there is 635,000 Decred with a current value of 9 million. So it's currently $9 million worth of Treasury that we can help fund the project. And there's a lot of funding being happening at the minute. We've got on-chain funding, we've got promotions funding, we've got a new DEX in the work, and a whole bunch of other stuff in terms of development that gets funded all through this Treasury. So when you think of a project and you see it have a Treasury and you see how powerful the Treasury is, remember this is only 4 years old and we have no external capital other than the Treasury coming into the system and what people buy, the actual coins. So there's no adverse actions here of people kind of pulling the project in a certain way. It's all happening legitimately on chain through all of these votes. So once you look at that, you see the total supply. So it has this 21 million, and currently there's 11,700,000 coins in circulation. So before we call an end to this has been quite long, but before we call an end to this, that's the basic information. This is the basic information you're going to get from any blockchain. And if you ever thought to yourself, oh, this doesn't seem right, there's nothing stopping you from actually spinning up your own node to see if the blockchain is running as you'd expect it to. And that's the beauty of an open ledger. So some of the other things that's going on with the blockchain, if you click on this menu item, you've got loads and loads of information here. One of the latest things they have is this attack cost calculator. So if one of your thesis was how much would it cost me to attack a blockchain and you wanted to make sure that it was hyper secure, well, Decred supplies that information to you, so you can actually run a bunch of calculations and see how secure it is and see how much it would cost for anyone to attack a blockchain. This is a really great tool, and to my knowledge, no one else is offering these kind of tools. These are honest calculations as well. You can run these calculations using this, or you can run it using your own calculation methods, to see how it works out. You also have loads of charts. I mean, there's an absolute minefield here, but the last thing I'm going to show you is the charts, and to show you how healthy the project is over time. So this includes every single block and all the data within those blocks calculated on a graph. So the first thing we're looking at here is ticket prices. And you can see that the ticket prices in the early days fluctuated massively. So one of the upgrades was to actually put that into a more streamlined method so that it couldn't fluctuate so wildly. So as you can see, since this protocol got implemented, or this new algorithm for ticket purchasing got implemented, the actual ticket prices have been on a steady slope, if you like, and it's a natural steady slope. You don't have these wild variations, which is absolutely great. It's not really what you want if you want an honest system, if you like. So this change in algorithm was absolutely great, and you can see that the sentiment of buying tickets is actually going up. So people are into Decred and people are buying tickets. And as we saw from the blockchain, pretty much all of those 41,000 tickets have been bought, and they're being bought, and the ticket price is going up, which means there's a high percentage of people wanting to get involved in buying tickets. Now, what other things have we got here? We've got the block size, so you can actually see how big the blocks were over time as well, to see if they ever went kind of too wild. We have the fee calculator, which is the one I look at quite a bit to make sure the fees don't go crazy. So once you come into the fees, and you have to zoom in for this one, so just using this bar here, you can just zoom in and you can see what the current fees are, and you see how they're doing. Now, as you can see, looking at this kind of tally, we're at roughly 0.01 per block. So that isn't per transaction, that's per block. So the block could be filled with thousands of Decred, and that's what the transaction is there, which, as you can see, is very, very reasonable. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that wasn't too much of a minefield, but it's really important if you do get involved in the crypto space that you understand those two things. Understand how to look at a ledger, see what information is available, see if you agree with that information, and also make sure that there is a maximum supply. And once again, as I say in every video, I currently only believe that coins with a maximum supply of 21 million are going to be successful in this space, and I'm only really looking at sound money currently, so things that can actually give me sound money value where my money is not going to go down over time or lose value. Now, if you like that content and you want to subscribe, please do so. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and any feedback would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time.
I don't know a lot about the Decred.
Kidding about printing, flooding the system with money.
Yes, exactly.
And there's no end to your ability to do that.
We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the bank.
I wish I was more educated on Decred. Decred. He is bullish on Decred.